Hey guys, I decided that I thought it would be a good idea to get on here and kind of give my opinion and the background in layman's terms about the issue with the Equifax hacks situation. So I'm going to give it just like a couple seconds and then we'll get started. I'll probably take about 10 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So basically, between the hurricane, sorry, I'm trying to get everything situated with my phone. Between the hurricane and all the different issues that have been going on, there was a hack with Equifax. If you're not familiar, Equifax is one of the reporters of your credit information. So when you have items on your credit report, it's sent to Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, and then they basically it's like the big file cabinet for all of your credit information. So back in July, they were hacked. They were hacked of 143 million individuals' information, and they basically the information was stolen. So people's names, social securities, bank card numbers, addresses were stolen. They said that some documents, as far as individuals who may have submitted disputes, were taken, and about 200,000 of a particular type of document. In addition, they noted that the issue behind the Equifax hack was due to an unsecured web browser, meaning anytime you're on your web browser, if you look up at the top left corner, you'll see next to the web address, it'll say secure. If it says secure, typically you're fine. In that instance, I guess the information didn't say secure, so they were able to hack it that way. Now, let's be mindful that for every dollar that Equifax makes, they keep 37 cents, which means there's no reason why they shouldn't have been able to, no reason why they should not have been able to, have a better system. There's no reason why they should have been hacked. Now, here's the sketchy part to me. After the hack happened in July, August, 3 of their executives sold about 1.3 or $1.7 million worth of stock. It looks sketchy and it keeps getting worse. So they didn't decide to tell us regular people that it happened until August. So it's kind of like, you're not sorry that you did something wrong. You're sorry because you got caught. I see that I have a few more people on here. If you can let me know if you hear me, that would be great. Let me know if you all had heard anything about the hack, if you had any concerns over it. Share this with your friends, because this is where we're going to start getting into a little bit of the meat and potatoes of this thing. Okay, so really quick recap. There was an Equifax hack. Equifax is one of the reporting bodies for your credit report information. They had this happen back in July. They didn't tell us about it until August. 3 of their executives sold their stock in between that time. This was an issue that could have been resolved. It was due to an unsecure web browser. Okay. So, I've had people, different clients text me and say, Shannon, what are we supposed to do about this whole issue with our credit? Well, here's one thing that you can do. You can pull your credit to check for any inconsistencies. It's not so much focusing on the score, but you want to focus on the data. Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, they're all reporting bodies what they're doing. Thank you, Aunt Teresa. Can you hear me? Though I guess you can if you comment it. So thank you for being here. So, when you check your credit report, you want to make sure that you're comparing all the information from all three credit bureaus. If you're not doing that, then, there's no way to tell, what's there and what's not. If you see anything that seems, sketchy, then, write it down and dispute it. That's the quickest way to, get there. Nobody knows if you have any inconsistencies on your credit like you do. So you want to make sure that you take care of that information. The next thing that you can do is you can put a freeze on your account. Now, these things do vary from state to state. And some people are like, oh, well, I can put a freeze or else I can put a fraud alert. And you want to make sure that you understand the difference. A freeze basically it's when you call the credit bureau and you say, I want to put a freeze on my account. It is a charge associated with it for the state of Delaware for Experian, at least. It's $10. Hi, Ebony. Thanks for coming and viewing this. It puts a freeze on your account saying, hey, before you let anybody pull my credit report, you need to, I need to either release this freeze or you need to confirm with me that it was something that I allowed to happen. So when you do that, it just makes it much easier. The next option that you have is, you want to apply or register for some sort of credit monitoring. Now, one thing, you have paid versions and then you have free versions. An example of a very popular free version is Credit Karma. Credit Karma is good, but a tri-merge is better. And when you are looking at a tri-merge, what a tri-merge says is I'm going to show you all of the things that are on all three of your credit bureaus. So Credit Karma is good because it shows you TransUnion, I think, and I want to say Experian, but don't quote me on it. But it shows you too, and it'll show you your Vantage score. Now, we're not going to so much focus on the Vantage score because that's not important right now. We're not talking about credit scores right now. We're talking about the data. So you want to pull your credit report so that you can see the data. And what I mean by the data is you want to see if there's been any address changes. That's one of the spaces that we don't focus on. So you want to pay attention to see if there's any address changes, if there's been any name changes, if you've seen any new debts that you didn't do. Unfortunately, there's not as many protections, I guess. Well, there's probably more now than there were about 10 years ago, but, there wasn't always a lot that you could do about your credit being hacked. But, now in light of all these different things, they're trying to make it more readily available. The next thing you can do is know this. And I know that this might seem extremely mean and it might be a little bit harsh, but typically if you already have bad credit, nobody's going to want to steal it. I'm not being mean. I know that sounds so harsh, but that doesn't mean that somebody's still not looking at your data, because this is something that's going to impact people long term. It's not just going to be just for today or tomorrow. It's going to be a long term thing. They might hold your information and then not, do anything with it until a long time. So just to kind of recap, you want to pull your credit to check for any inconsistencies, whether it be your name, your address, or whatever. You may want to put a freeze on your account, which is where you register with the credit bureau and you ask them to block the account, meaning that nobody can pull your credit unless you've given them authorization. You will want to enroll in some sort of credit monitoring. You have Credit Karma, which is free, but it just does two. You have some paid versions, which are pretty affordable, such as Privacy Guard, and that's spelled PrivacyGuard.com. That's Privacy Guard. You also have Identity IQ, which is another good one. And both of those will upload your information every 30 days along with your scores. Now, somebody just noted that predicting a massive lawsuit. Yes, it'll probably be something like Volkswagen. So I've been telling people kind of sit and watch. Honestly, the longer you wait, the better it's going to get. I know, let's be clear. I'm not an attorney. I am not giving you legal advice, but I will use this as an example. When we had Volkswagen, there was an issue where they lied about diesel emissions. A lot of people quickly went and traded in their car. They were like, oh, I don't want this car anymore. It's not safe. Well, if you traded it in, you didn't get to benefit from the judgment that the courts had given down and the downline, meaning the courts, basically after, if you didn't trade your car in and you waited a year, at first they didn't have a solution. So they were buying cars back. So if you had like a $15,000 balance, $20,000 balance, they were like paying these cars off. So sometimes it's to your benefit to wait. And often if you take a settlement or some sort of incentive, like free credit monitoring, and we'll get to this in a second, then what you're opting out of is your ability to participate within the lawsuit. Now, they may have, little stipulations, but again, I'm not an attorney. I recommend that you read the next resource pages that I give you towards the end of this post. What about using a company like Lexington Law to help clear up things on your credit? Are they any good? Yeah, you could use Lexington Law, but why when you have me? I cracked myself up. Yeah, no, you can just use Payton Credit Services. They're an excellent company. I hear that they offer awesome services. And I hear that the lady who does the credit is even better. And basically, those services are often paid, which, I'm more than happy to help anybody. If you feel like that you want to inquire, you can send me an email. I'll have it down here in the address link. It's info@PaytonCreditServices.com, or you can check our website out at www.PaytonCreditServices.com. But I do want to, focus a little bit on some other options for you guys. When you do pull your credit information, you want to focus on the things such as the data. Now, understand this, there's 27 different scoring models. So a lot of times people will come and they'll say, hey, Shannon, I have my credit pulled from such and such. Sometimes you'll get things, you'll have different score models. So people often ask me, Shannon, well, I have Credit Karma, and I'll tell them, that's Vantage Score. Vantage Score is one score model. Or, I'm looking for my FICO score. Your FICO score is what they often use when you're trying to qualify for a home. When you're trying to buy a car, you have beacon scores. So there's 27 different score models, which means there's millions of possibilities of what your credit score would be, depending, from model to model. So the thing that I usually recommend to people is don't so much focus on the score. And I know you're probably like, but why? I want my score to be as high as possible. That's what makes people know that I'm, good in taking care of my bills. You want to focus again on the data. You want to make sure that the information that is input to calculate the score is correct. Because if you can get that streamlined and the same all across the board, then that will help you as far as improving your credit. So I know that people get a lot of, regular results from my FICO. Now, how do you guys feel about what I've said so far? Do you have any questions in reference to the Equifax hack, or, what you should be looking for when you're reading into the data? I can see your comments. So if you do have any questions, pop in. How do you feel about this thing? Did you pull your credit, and are you impacted by it? Do you have credit monitoring? How do you feel about all of this? My FICO, again, is pretty good. They provide, like, goodness gracious, a lot of different versions where you can see your credit score. Where do you go to get your FICO score? You can get your FICO credit score from My FICO. They'll give you a bunch of different versions. You can look at the one that works best for you. I recently had a client who uses My FICO, and her My FICO score for the mortgage lender actually matched what the mortgage lender had. Now, typically, the only way you can know what version of any particular score that somebody is using is if they tell you or if they pull it for you. So with the mortgage lenders, only a mortgage lender can pull your score and tell you what your mortgage score is. Now, My FICO has it so you can see it, but sometimes there's a slight variance. So I would recommend My FICO if you're trying to, pull your score. You can order your credit reports from myannualcreditreport.com, and you can pay the additional money for the scores. And usually it's just in reading the fine print. Like some of them, more banks are starting to use Vantage Score, so it just really depends. That was a good question. Any other questions about the different credit models or where you can go to find them? Okay, so if you feel like that you have been impacted by this thing, you have a couple options. If you feel like that somebody stole your information, and even if it wasn't this, if you've had people who've stolen your identity or anything like that, you can go to identitytheft.gov, and I'll put that in the comment, identitytheft.gov. You can also go to Equifax Security 2017. Sorry guys, I'm outside, and that's my sister's car alarm. I said, good Lord, nobody ever get close to your car. And you can go to Equifax Security 2017.com as an option as well. Okay, I'm gonna go back down. This is over my head. I will just trust what you're telling me to do. Okay, so can you elaborate? Because I want to make sure that, everybody's kind of on the same page and able to get, what they need. So if you pull your credit report, you look at it. If you see anything about it that doesn't make sense, then that 9 times out of 10 isn't from you. So that's the information that you can dispute. I usually recommend to people, if you're going to do your own disputes, do not do it online, because oftentimes there's a computer that reads through, and it will automatically boot out certain things that look a specific type of way. Any other questions? Because we are about to wrap up. So if you think that you've been impacted by the Equifax hack, you can pull your credit report. You can utilize Credit Karma to see if there's been any changes. They'll often send you notifications. If you see notifications of things you didn't do, those are things that you may want to dispute. If you feel like that you, need help, you can email us at info@Payton Credit Services. I want to thank you all for your patience with me, and thank you for taking some time out of the NFL Sunday to come and hear me talk about your credit, and hope that you can get there. At Payton Credit Services, we believe that educated consumers make the best decisions, so it's our goal and focus to educate consumers. You can also find us at www.paytoncreditservices.com. That's www.paytoncreditservices.com. I do have videos on my YouTube. It's Shannon the Credit Slayer, so you can find me on YouTube. And we have a lot of, more slow pace information there. So thanks again, and you all have an awesome Sunday.